This morning we're talking to three people who've been very active in cross-country skiing in the Nipigon area, and it is February 2024. Unfortunately, I'm gonna snow out there this year for the first time in ever.
Pretty sad.
But anyway, we'll see what you... So they're talking about the early years of the cross-country skiing. And this is Lorne Morrow, Rob Swainson, and Chris Leale that we're talking to today. So whoever wants to start first.
I guess it's me.
Lorne was here before us, so...
I showed up in 1979, and the club was in pretty rough shape then. We had an old skidoo with no money. And membership was good, but it was $10 for single, $15 for family. And we had a bunch of life members. And I sort of said, what are life members? Well, these were the originals who actually pitched in to buy the skidoo. And they immediately lifed themselves as members to the club. And I thought this is rather strange because we needed money to get a skidoo. So we had some fundraisers. This would be, and then the funding was, we had to put up so much, and then what is it called?
You had to come up with 50%.
Winterial,
yes.
And so how do you raise basically $2,500? So, and we met about it. We had bake sales, made 100 here and 100 there, and then I came up with the idea of Flipper Flanagan's Flat-Footed 4. That was a really great old band back then. But it was $1,200 to get them here. Well, remember, my bored old Arrow Lanenden said, Morrow, Jesus, $1,200. I said, that's $1,200 up front. And he wasn't very
You're gambling.
He wasn't very happy. I said, listen, we'll pack the Legion. Guaranteed, we'll pack the Legion. Well, we packed the Legion. When you think about a liquor license back then, you're only allowed so many cases of beer. And everybody told me they'll drink the beer up in the first hour or so. So we bought a bunch of extra beer. We had it outside the back door. And of course, there's no Visa in those days. It was all cash. And all the old guard, you better not lose money here, boy. You better not lose money. Well, by 10 o'clock, my pockets were full of cash. And I went up there and said, I told you we'd make money. I think we made about $800, which was a lot of dough in those days. And then we had some in the bank, and that allowed us to get the big old double track. And the club was pretty active, a lot of members back then.
Just for one pause now, tell me exactly where the cross-country ski hill was in those days.
It hasn't really changed much. It was at the golf course. There was a blue which wasn't which was about 5K, and then there was a 10K orange which was really hard. Mm-hmm. And Arrow was a very elite skier, so he didn't want to make it easier. And so in the fall we'd brush the trails out. So I said, I'll get that tree. I was right at the first downhill. We had a birch tree right in the middle of the trail. People were hitting the birch tree. So I sent him down to the far end to work, and I was here. And he heard my power saw going, and he come running through the bush. Lauren, what have you done? I said, I finally got that GD tree out of the way. And we groomed all for years there. He'd phone me up. Lauren, we go ramping and rooming tonight. And the way it worked is I stood on this sled. He had a big bar on it. And he'd drive, and I was the weight on the sled. And if it broke down, it was at the mill to get fixed. The mill fixed it all the time. And so I was active with it for about 5 or 6 years.
Well, even longer. The records show you're still getting paid for postage in 90-91 that season. So almost a decade. And
then I got so busy with work and kids that and that's when Seppo began his trails.
Okay.
And then I skied a lot. Skate skis, you skate basically.
Right.
And he had skate trails, so I went and skied at Seppo's. And I was tied up at the mill at that point, and I just didn't have the time. And then these guys got involved in just after that.
Yeah.
But we had a big membership back then too. And we'd have socials and bake sales and ski lessons. We'd bring people in from Thunder Bay to teach. I taught some back then too. And we'd also groom the road down to Miko Lespies and back.
Oh,
The golf course
okay,
road.
I didn't know that.
Because
That.
it wasn't hard then. Because
No.
those trails were really
Yeah,
technical.
it wasn't plowed, right?
Yeah, and it was really technical. So we would groom that, and then we had the blue, and which was about, I think it was 6 or 7K, and the orange was about 10K. The orange was really hard. I was a good skier, and I was scared on the trails.
Oh,
at
yeah.
one time, did the cross-country ski people use that old building there?
Yeah,
There was an old
there was an
building.
old building. We had that, and we had an old stove in
I
there.
can remember going to have soup or something
Yeah,
there.
we had an
That
old-
was part of the ski hill, I think.
Yeah.
That was with Redmonds and Alfie Dampier and his Dampier Burgers and all that stuff.
That's right.
And you guys
It was
used it for a
just
while.
just at the start
Yep.
of the trail on the right hand side there. That's
Yep.
right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
See, that stuff comes back.
It's
Yeah.
still there, but it's totally collapsed on
Yeah.
the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still,
But I remember going there many times, even to take pictures.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
And there was always people there.
yeah.
So when were those trail, I know what we have in our records is that 77 was.
77, 78 was the first
Membership
membership
list.
operating year.
Was that right? Eh? I thought it was before a lot
I
before
wondered
that.
when
At
the
least,
trails
but
got
that's
built.
probably right. Now, there was no constitution, and I said to Chris, one of my first jobs was to draft up a constitution. So Bernie Howarth, remember Bernie
Yep.
Howarth?
Yeah.
I went because he was an expert in constitutions. So he and I drafted a constitution. I'm going to try to dig through my files and see if I can find it for you guys, because it was pretty loosey goosey back then. And there was a little.
Well, I did find the file and it's still in draft.
so you found it, eh?
Oh yeah,
That was-
it says draft. There's some comments,
Yeah.
but I'll send you a copy.
Yeah, I'd like to
you
see
can
it.
help us go forward with it.
Yeah.
30 years later.
40.
But it could be that maybe it was operating before 77, 78,
Yeah.
but my account ledgers start in 77, 78. They're still on file, so that's a good
I had
interesting
just assumed that they'd been, because I first showed up in '79, so I thought it'd been going long, but I don't
Well,
know.
you know what, Lorne, they
I just don't know.
probably were because, you would know if it's freshly cut or not. I mean, you
Yeah.
could tell that. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing they were built over a number of years because the work involved in cutting those trails and laying them out,
Yeah.
like, it was huge. I know what it's like to maintain them and to build them from scratch.
They
is
were pretty
crazy.
narrow back then too.
Well, and these.
Well,
that's-
I almost didn't get married because of those trails. Linda was, she's a pretty focused lady, and I took her cross country skiing there, and it was icy, and she kept falling. And of course, I was fine, and she got so mad. I decided I let her cool down for 2 or 3 weeks before I phoned her again. So, oh, yeah, she's a pretty focused
That's
girl.
called the cooling off
I
period.
had to let her cool off for a while. She wasn't a happy camper there. Because there was a part where we came by the old course, the golf course changed too,
Yeah.
by the old course, and there was a sweeping downhill, and she almost smacked a tree, and she was so mad, and that I got mad at her, and so we just didn't talk for a couple of weeks.
There's been some big changes over the years because of the expansion of the golf course and then impacted by the transmission line going through here, so.
Well, plus there was people logging there too,
Oh.
where
Oh, yeah, yeah,
we used to go. What direction would that be?
north across the
Nor-
road you're talking?
North across, when we
Yeah.
crossed the road. That got logged.
That's right,
Jerry Blakely, I think, logged that.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a combination of private property and township property, and at one point we were on some crown land.
Yeah.
It's still on private and.
Still a
and-
bit of a hodgepodge.
Is the golf course town property?
Yeah,
It is now, yes.
yeah. So it's around, essentially in the bush around
Right.
the perimeter of the golf course,
Yeah.
and includes a loop around on the golf course itself when conditions allow. But the majority of the trails are in the bush.
Right.
So that's the history up to these guys.
But you're right about the falling, because there's one spot that had a really steep hill.
Yeah.
And I went down there with Liz Robinson and I fell and put my show thing out here. It's still out. Summerlee said, "Don't worry about it, just leave it like that."
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever went back on
No,
that trail.
no, they were
I know,
difficult.
they
They were
were-
very technical trails.
Yeah, they were.
And they were narrow, and and of course, the Finnish people were all good skiers.
Right.
And I had lots of people who'd never skied before, and
Yeah.
right off the bat, if I remember, right off the start, you went by the old building, and it climbed, and then there was a screamer
there's some
downhill.
screaming downhills
And
there.
that hill is still part of the Moose Loop. We call the Blue
Yeah.
Trail the Moose Loop now, and that famous
There used to-
S-turn downhill is still
There
there.
used to be a birch right in the middle of it too, right
Well,
smack
that's
dab in
that's
the
not
middle.
there anymore.
We did do, I got involved mid-90s, helping Mikko grooming and Mikko Lesby grooming and whatnot, and I moved here in '88. Got involved right away off and on, but I became president in around '97, I guess, looking back at the records, so, and have been ever since. But we did have to make a bunch of changes in around 2000. We got a grant through help with from Lavina as an economic development officer, and we got
Yeah.
almost $40,000 to employ people to widen the trails, and we also hired David Thompson to bulldoze some of the trails, because these trails were designed when in the hot, deep snow years.
Yeah.
There were boulders like that in the middle of these trails. That,
yeah.
You counted on snow.
Yeah.
By
And
the
we got lots of
2000s, we
snow.
weren't getting lots of
Yeah,
snow.
We got lots of snow back then.
Yeah, and so we were really having to work to maintain trails around these boulders. So anyway, we got this grant thanks to Lavina's help, and we expanded. We basically flattened and bypassed some of the really bad hills, and we widened that I call it Kitzbühel, but the downhill there with the jump in the middle, and that all got widened, and it's still a challenge.
A challenge for sure.
But we did a lot of work then, and altered the trails quite a bit, and then this past 2 years, I guess, when Nexbridge went through and widened and put a new power line through, we were crossed 5 different places and totally eliminated big sections of our trail. So we expanded. We got money from them after a long, hard-fought battle.
Yeah.
These guys were nasty to deal with, trying to get money out of them.
What's
and-
your blood pressure, Rob?
Yeah.
Well, we were the same.
But they did come through with money at the
Yeah,
end,
it
thanks
worked
to
out.
help from the town, and we expanded the trails to the south on town property, and made beautiful trail, one called the Mikko Lesby Lookout Loop, and it looks at Paiute Mountain, and the other is an extension down further, down below where the Moose Loop is. It's an extension, so we added kilometers of trail to it at that point.
How's your membership now?
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
So so going back to Lorne's time, going to the records, it was amazing to see the number of family memberships. I'm not sure it was there was between 83 and 86. There was at least 75 families at one point registered with the club,
Yeah, it's big.
and then only a handful is so that's a huge
Yeah.
number. And then it ebbs and flows based on efforts like with Lorne trying to get people to come out, and then when the change in the guard occurred in '91, when Dave Hill was the president for a bit, and I noticed in the records that it looked like John Langtang and Mikkel were leading the charge, and memberships then were like down to 23, 24 families and some singles. And then there'd be a push to get more families, and it's been like that for a long time, flowing like
Yeah.
that, and similar to.
Well, yeah, and I literally got involved because I could see it was just dying out. I was heavily into the hockey here. I mean,
Yeah.
I was coaching up to 4 teams at a time and traveling all over, but I just hated to see all this work disappear. So that's why I got involved thinking if I can just keep it alive long enough that other people can come in and help, we'll keep this going, because
And
it was
27
really
year-
dying out. Yeah, 27 years later,
you're still the president of the
still,
club.
and still trying
so
to get help.
Yeah.
I was surprised looking back how many socials we had. We'd have these
Oh, you did,
socials
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And which
No,
which
you
was,
guys
if you
were
think
active.
back to that era, you did a lot of that.
different.
Clubs had
Yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah.
And there wasn't internet, and you had
No.
big sales and socials and stuff.
Definitely a reflection of a different time.
Different,
for sure.
different age group demographics too.
Yes.
That's the big
Yeah,
thing that
yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
You know, and it is tied into the mills and
Because
know, the
if the
employment.
machine broke down, it was taken to the mill to be fixed. There was no cost charged to the
Yeah.
club.
Better clarify, that's the Red Rock Mill,
The Red Rock
Yeah.
Mill, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Red Rock
yeah.
Mill. that,
Because Arrow was maintenance supervisor,
oh, okay.
and so he had access to all the welders, machinists, like
Yeah.
the trail groomer. You've probably still got the same one. I'm not sure.
No, we did. We bought
You bought
one
one?
of the tenderizers. They're
Oh,
called.
a proper one.
Yeah, back.
Yes,
Around
yeah, we did some
2000,
improvements
I think.
there. What were the highlights there? So yeah, mid-90s, that's when there was a final change in the guard till today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Rob came the president. Mick Gillespie was our trail master right until he got ill, and
Yeah.
we lost poor Mick.
Yeah.
And myself just pushing the treasurer stuff around, and then getting volunteers year after year to keep the club going.
Yeah.
And through some hard times for this community, right, with the
Oh,
mills
yeah.
going down. But we kept it going. And the other big surge occurred more recently with another phenomenon, the pandemic. We were kind of floating along with maybe 30, because we shifted to only adult and youth memberships. We don't have family memberships anymore because of costs. And we were always around 25, 30 adult members. And at the peak of the pandemic, we were up to 60 adults. And we held that last
Yeah.
year at
Is that
60,
right? Is that
60
good? That's
members.
good.
I always tell people there's an offshoot to that COVID.
There
I was
is.
baptized, but boy, it sure changed some things and,
Yeah.
and improved things.
Yeah, we got
and you're right.
got a lot of appreciation from people through that hard time to get out, because we were able to keep the trails open. There was outside activity, and we had a big surge in membership, and we're trying to keep that flowing.
Yeah.
Not this year. We're struggling this year.
We don't have many young people, very kids and
No.
youths, but seems to be some, the middle age group seems to be the main users, I would say, at this
Yeah,
stage
again,
of the
it's
game.
a reflection of the demographics of this town.
Mhm.
And in some ways, that's changed some of our grooming, Lauren. Where you talked about the famous Orange Trail, we named it the Lookout Trail, and
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, we stopped grooming it because I was finding myself groom that trail and realized I was the only one using it for the next week.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
and
Nobody's skiing
when
it.
you get that double track stuck and you're out by yourself,
Oh yeah.
man, oh man, oh man. And Arrow never got stuck. And I had to groom once, my first time, and I got it stuck. I was young and foolish, but you're standing in snow up to here trying
Yes.
to lift a
Oh,
machine
yeah.
that weighs a ton, basically. So it was.
That's why Mikko was the ultimate groomer, because he could lean that and drive that
that's
machine like there's no tomorrow. The
That's
first
right.
time I went out, I was out there for 4 hours digging it out because I didn't know how to drive that single track or that single ski.
It's got a brain of
Alpine.
its own. It just.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even the new one's got a brain of its. We have a Polaris wide-track, long track,
Yeah.
a new one. It's only 21 years old now.
Yeah.
And similar
2
similar
minutes.
story. When Nickel.
Okay, let's
sorry.
stop there for a minute while she resets that.
So similar to Lauren's story about getting on doing the track setting for the first time, like Mikkel did probably 80, 90, 95% of the trail grooming for that 20-year period or more.
Oh, yeah,
From
sure.
middle of the night, he'd be out there. And then he got ill, and then we had to step into that role. And that first time around the north end, I got stuck on that orange trail 6 times. And I remember at lunchtime I called Mikkel because I didn't know how much gas was in. He said it'll be fine. He's working at the school in the high school,
Yeah.
and he's coming back to his place, and he notices that it's been 3 hours and I'm still on the north side. He calls me, and I said, no, I'm on the south side. I'm good. And then I got onto the golf course and I got stuck again. And I called him. I said, I need a lifeline. And then he came back down. We traded off. And just as he takes off to try to get the rest of the moose loop done, he got stuck too, which made my day. I could hear him cursing up in the top of the hill. And we certainly did appreciate all the work that Nickel did when you finally get onto that snow machine. We're getting better at not getting stuck and getting unstuck, but it's still a big challenge.
It's a demanding
sometimes.
job. I mean, I couldn't do it.
Well, every time we go out to track set, you chewed up four solid hours by the time you gas machine up and get everything going.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get that much snow, it's 4 hours of work. And like I said, Chris and I also look after the hiking trails here locally. I'll take 6 hiking trails to 1 ski trail because the work involved from brushing and wide, and then the grooming involved. You know, a couple of inches of snow and you got to reset, and it takes a long time. So
how much snow about do you need to make a good base for that? Like, are you able to do it by December, the end of November? I mean, it depends on the year, but
exactly.
you must need a
You
certain
need a couple
base.
feet at least, eh?
Well,
a couple feet.
Yeah, if it's heavy snow and you get some, freezing
Compaction,
involved,
yeah.
compacting, then you're fine with like a foot of snow. Let us ski the Beaver Meadow Loop, which is flat, and there's, it's all been graded and whatnot. But to use our Moose Loop, which has some rocks and things, you need a good 2 feet of snow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if it's fluffy, you're
You're done.
bottoming out. You can't go. We tried this year with the little bit that we had tracks. We did tracks at the golf course once. We only had that much snow, and then we tried. I was brushing, and I came out the trail to try to flag Chris down before he got started in because I could see there wasn't enough snow, and
This must be
That
one
was
of
the
the
last
worst
set.
years you've
It is.
ever seen.
Everywhere.
It is for sure.
Everywhere. We canceled the Loppet this year.
Yeah.
Every major race has been canceled. The big Birkebeiner race in Wisconsin, which is a 50K race with 15,000 skiers. They're doing it on 10K of man-made snow, and they're going to put 15,000 skiers on 10K man-made snow because it's such an economic boom. It's a town the size of Nipigon,
Right.
and I've skied it about 6 times, and it's a gong show. There's so many people, but it's
all jammed into 10K.
every 5 minutes a wave of 500 goes off. So if you're in the back wave,
There's not going to be much left of the
it's,
trail
it's,
this year.
mashed, it's mashed potatoes. It's mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's just up and down. But that's the only race that's trying to run. There's the Winter Games are at Lappy this coming weekend, and they've been shoveling there nonstop for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And if you fall, you at our age you'll break something. It's just like rock.
Yeah.
When you mentioned the collarbone thing, I took out my collarbone. I'm wondering if it's the same hill, the very same thing. But that's when I was skiing early, and there was only about that much snow. And I went in. I was going to ski, just get a ski in before work, and I got home, and my shoulder was just hanging down.
Well, I was thinking back on the sort of the transition from me to these guys. I was pretty well the fastest skier in town in those days because I was still racing back then, and I was skiing at.
Well, you hadn't met me yet.
Yeah, no. This is what I was skiing at the golf course, and this guy is behind me, and I'm trying to drop him, and it's Rob. And Rob's a good athlete. And who is this guy? Who is this guy? And I've just killed myself trying to stay in front. And I just thought of that. I remember you just come to town, and I thought, I can't stay in front of this guy. Now you look back.
That was a dog chasing a rabbit, though, too. I could tell this guy was trying to get ahead of me, so I wasn't.
Yeah.
That's always the nature.
Competition kicks in.
If there's somebody in front of you, you always want to catch them.
That's right.
That's just the way it is.
So where do you keep your machine?
Yeah.
for a long time, we worked out at Mikkel's place
Yeah, yeah.
for
Yeah,
years,
big shop
years.
there.
And then more recently, it's stored
Been
at
at my
Rob's,
place.
Oh,
so we
okay.
can sneak
Yeah.
onto the trails from behind his place.
Oh, you
yeah.
can, yeah, you
I'm
will.
800 meters from the back of my place through to the golf course.
okay.
So we just, it's been handy for connecting up and.
And that's why they
just
want to keep
it.
you in power, so
Yeah.
so they can keep that trail open, Rob.
Is that why you keep voting me in?
I
Yeah,
think
well,
so.
when's the last time we had a vote? 26 years ago? No.
Right.
But
I don't think
yeah, this has been a very odd year for this, obviously. But the last 3 years, we had awesome amounts of snow.
Yes.
In fact, 3 Christmases ago, we had way too much snow. It took us three,
that's the
4
other-
man days with 4 guys out there to reopen the trails after that. Remember, we had that massive snowstorm,
Yeah.
that heavy one, and we were all getting excited about the ski season starting, and then the snow comes, and then the entire trail network was like this with alder,
Trees.
and we had to
right.
recut it all. But once that was done, we had a fantastic season last 3 years, and,
Right.
and worked out well because that's when all the peak use happened with the
Right.
pandemic. But yeah, this has just been like a stop this year for sure.
It's been a transition in the sport too. Back in the when I began to race in Thunder Bay, for example, there was only 20 to 30 racers, skiers. There was 28 Finlanders and me and Reed Carter. And now there's thousands. I mean, these are
Yeah.
huge clubs now, and I think that's what's changed with the sport is there's so many people participating. Back
Right.
then, it was considered a racing sport. It wasn't a participation sport.
Yeah.
And now it has really grown.
Did the Nipigon club sort of evolve when the downhill skiing didn't turn out in Nipigon?
That could be.
That's probably
Yeah.
what happened.
Because people like Cookie Dampier still
Yeah.
wanted to ski.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was
Yeah,
I was
that could
thinking
be.
about it and wondering if that kind of went there because the downhill skiing was supposed to be the thing,
Yeah.
and it never happened
It-
because we didn't get much snow in the
Right.
end.
Yeah. And that's real rocky slope there.
Right, and I wondered if it kind of then went. They thought, well, we could do trails.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah,
I think that because I forgot about the warming shack there.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
first one there, we put the stove on,
Mm-hmm.
and we had benches in there, picnic table inside, if I recall. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just
The
thinking
timing's there.
maybe.
The overlap
Well,
is definitely there. for
Yes, I
sure,
think
yeah.
so.
Well, and of course with the Finnish heritage, I mean, cross country skiing is huge as well. And I'm as there is today. There's people just love to go out, and they're not on the groomed trails. They're just literally cross country skiing. And
Right.
I'm betting that because there's a lot of these kinds of skis laying around.
Yeah.
People were just skiing out across the bush and down old logging roads and things
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
I would bet that
And
it was kind of a subculture going on here, and now this was a chance to bring it out into the forefront.
True.
That's just when fiberglass skis came out, was 1975, 76. Before
Yeah.
that, you bought wooden skis with lingstone edges. They had a
Yeah.
special hardened edge on them, and it was all wooden skis.
Yeah.
So
true.
is that tall pair behind you,
Yeah.
Rob, actually cross country?
Yeah.
Oh,
For
yeah.
bushwhacking,
Yeah,
Oh,
big
yeah. Oh, yeah.
long ones. Yeah.
Just try and turn them going down a hill.
Well, that's what I'm just thinking.
They're
Yeah.
not gonna turn.
Yeah, wow,
Oh, yeah.
that's a
Yeah, guys like Dave Crawford, for example.
Yeah.
He spent many of his earlier time skiing with big skis like this, bushwhacking,
Yeah.
and then he became involved with the club as well as a member, like way back.
Yeah.
But that would have been. He talks about that transition to groomed trails was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But before that, he was bushwhacking with his bush skis.
Yeah.
wow.
There were old wooden skis in the basement of my place.
We've all got them. I got a set of.
They were owned
like
by,
that.
Ted Niskanen and Marg
Yeah.
had those old skis in their place that
Right.
I bought from them. So they're I think there's some in everybody's basement in town here.
Well, and you got to.
That was long before the trails were here.
The bush operations were largely manned by Finlanders, Portuguese, Estonians, and so that brought that culture, and,
Right.
and they brought their sport with them.
Yeah.
Now there's none of that left, and so some of that is slipping away now too.
Right, right.
And they made skis here in Nipigon, correct? I believe.
Yeah.
There was never
Actually, I just posted a picture that said that building in the back corner is a ski factory.
Was a ski factory.
Yeah.
Just up from the Legion.
Is that right? I
Yeah,
didn't
there
know
was a
that.
big tall building there, and it was
Is
a
that right?
ski factory.
Ski factory.
And I remember after tracking this trails once, I was like, well, who the heck's wrecking my track here? That was just super wide, but I think someone went on our trails with one of these wide trail
Big wide
skis
babies
once.
that
Yeah.
chop
Yeah,
you
and
up.
I went, that's what it had to be. Someone's got their old skis out and has gone skiing on our track. That's what, oh, well, I didn't see it happen too often.
No,
It's a great outdoor activity, really, for
Oh.
all ages, and
For sure.
it's nice to see that people like you are still working hard at it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know the thrill. If you've skied off track and in the bush, and you're used to doing that, or trying to ski on a snowmobile trail, when you first get onto a groomed track set trail, meaning
Yeah.
there's little grooves cut,
Right.
it's like you think you've died and gone to heaven because you don't have to worry about your skis kicking out. I vividly remember the first track trail I ever skied on. It was like, whoa.
And
where
I'm
has
sure
this
when I
been?
fell on that one, that wasn't tracked. I think it was just wide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could
And
be.
it was- I
It
Well,
could
you
be.
know,
Yeah.
nowadays they expect the trails to be groomed every day. We'd groom them every 3 weeks if they needed it, or even if they
Yeah.
needed it. You know, that's what's
Yeah.
changed.
But that's where the work comes in, is keeping those nice grooves, so that it's like you're on a rail system.
Right.
But then you get a thaw, and then you freeze up, and then you're on a hockey rink,
Yeah.
and you can't stop going down the
Right.
hill, and,
Right.
and then your girlfriend hits a tree, and you don't talk to each other for 2 weeks.
All our trails are classic, of course, but as Lauren was referring to, another sport is picked up is the skiing.
Right.
And that's what Seppo brought
hasn't he?
he brought to our community skate skiing
Oh.
tracks, and he does an outside classic too for those.
Right.
So that's but we're
Yeah,
a lot
it's
more
a-
effort to do that, and
He has really wide, well-groomed.
Right. And I've
you know,
seen those
big
now that you
groomer.
mention it.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Because
No,
it-
he does a lot of nice.
The trick
nice work there.
with classic is the waxing. Now they're coming with waxless classic skis, but back then, trying to get the wax right. And the days you got your wax wrong,
Right.
it was horrible.
Yeah.
frustrating.
Anything from slipping back
Just stick it.
to walking with a bunch of snow under your skis
I used to.
that thick.
We had this spring race, and I went to the old Finns. What wax do I put on? Morrow, you put on the red clister. Red clister. It's like a toothpaste, eh? So I listened to them, and we had half it was in the sun and half it was in the bush.
Oh,
So I got this red clister on. I hit the bush. Boom! Everything iced up on my skis. And I'm basically walking up. They're all up on the hill laughing at me. Oh, you got to put the silver in with the red so you don't ice up in the bush.
Jeez. But that's
Yeah,
technology
it's a real
is bringing
technique.
skiing for more people because of the new waxless skis
Oh, yeah.
with the skins, they call them, right? And it's basically like how would you describe
It's
it?
a mohair that
Yeah.
only that will slide, but then if you slip back, the hairs grab. It's like a fish scale almost.
Right.
So a lot of the new skiers that are coming to the Rendezvous in the last 3 years, I'm looking at their skis, and they're all using the skins, and they don't have to worry about kick wax. They just have to worry about their glide
A
wax.
little bit of glide wax, and that's it.
And it really improves. You don't get out there and get really frustrated with the poor wax. So that's bringing more people to the sport as well.
yeah,
Technical
that
changes.
has changed.
Well, it also, your wife, she tells you 5 minutes before she's going skiing she wants her skis waxed. Now, I don't have to worry. She's got these waxless things. She just
Well-
puts them in her car and they stay there with her.
Right.
I know in my own case, I probably skied 3 times more last year because of having the wax, the skins
Oh.
than before, because of that very reason. It'd be 4:30, and it's like, oh, I got about an hour before dark. I could just grab my skis and go, as opposed to, if it's warmed overnight or it's colder than it was the day before, you got to re-wax. But with the skins,
Yeah.
just go,
And
grab and
especially-
go. It's been great.
Around freezing is the most difficult waxing. And most people go skiing when it's nice out,
Yeah.
Right.
which is around freezing, and then you can't, it's a 1 degree difference whether your skis work or don't work.
Right.
So,
I'm still a traditionalist. I use kick wax.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, I think that's
Yeah.
a great piece of history
Yeah.
because I think cross-country skiing will still be around for a long time because it
Yeah.
is it's a family sport, but it's for all ages as well.
For sure.
So I want to thank the three of you for coming by today and doing this interview.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go.